Alright, today I'm going to be talking about Harry Potter Book 1, The Philosopher's Stone. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really don't like this one book. So if you want to hear gushing, come back for Book 2, or the last part of this video. Because I'm just going to be honest, there's a reason I was not a pothead or a Harry Potter fan for so many years. Because I did, try to get on, board with it when it first started coming out with the first book, first movie, and I just couldn't. And by the time this video is done, it'll probably be a lot more clear why I felt that way. But long story short, there was a reason that it took me more than a decade, to come back and try it again and try to see what was behind this movement, this new thing in literature and movies, because the Philosopher's Stone just left such a bitter, bad taste in my mouth. So let's get into it, and you'll probably notice a different title, ranting about Harry Potter, as opposed to what I'll probably call my video for Chamber of Secrets, which is gushing about wizards. Today's ranting about wizards. So let's just get down to it. Let's start with spoiling the book, just so we all have basically understand what's kind of going on with it. This one is the first book in the series. It starts out before we even know that there are wizards, and basically Harry Potter is a very put upon 10-year-old in a not great house with his Uncle Vernon, his Aunt Petunia, and his cousin Dudley. And then one day Hagrid appears to deliver him to the magical world, where he goes from rags to riches, and he gets to attend Hogwarts, which is the school of magic. And along the way he has hijinks, and then, but unfortunately there is a not so good wizard, and it's up to Harry Potter to stop him. And that is going to hold true for pretty much the entire book series. So at this point, what can I say? This is a common problem with a lot of early works in a franchise, because you do have to start somewhere, and generally you have to start somewhere pretty basic and then build upon it. So it's not entirely J.K. Rowling's fault, and she does do a lot better job with things later with it. It's just in part 1 it has a lot of not good things that I'll be talking about in part 2 and part 3. But right now I just want to say that if there's someone else like me out there who's only seen the first part, the series does get better. It really does pick up steam, and is not so cartoonishly Mary Sue-ish with their characters. They do pick up gradients and are much more well-rounded. Um, you know, to make an analogy, what the Philosopher's Stone really is like on Star Trek: The Next Generation. If all you saw of the show was episodes like Shades of Grey or The Naked Now, and you thought, oh well, that's Star Trek. Why would I be wanting to watch that? And then not understanding that no, it got a lot better. It started there, and then it grew into something that was actually worth watching, worth investing some time in, worth thinking about. And that was the mistake I made with Harry Potter. I thought it was just this little wizard boy who had everything in the world going for him to a cartoonishly bizarre extent, and then not having to really work to achieve any of his goals. And I didn't get any of the pathos or Carthus, with him. But I mean, but where, to J.K. Rowling's defense, this happens a lot with long-running franchises because you don't really know what's gonna be, which is gonna catch on, what's gonna be good, and what you're gonna need to keep. I have written down, for example, like Final Fantasy 1. Like, who would have thought that, out of all the things, with Final Fantasy 1, with, set job classes, mute heroes, elemental fiends, that really what was going to catch on out of that game was the turn-based combat. And that's what they were going to build, that's what they were going to build their, franchise on, and, change almost everything else, every game. Who would have known that if you had just played that game, and who would have known that, at least I personally don't like Final Fantasy 1 that much. 2 is personally a lot better for me, but I know that's just a strange preference. The heroes talk, they actually have, some kind of personality. Granted, it was still a Nintendo era game, original NES, so it wasn't a lot, but it was something. Granted, I didn't play it until they started remaking it, but still, so sometimes, the first to anything, it can be difficult. If you watch like the first few episodes of even, not just sci-fi or video games, but even, comedies. If you watch like the very early Nostalgia Critic videos on thatguywithglasses.com, it's a very different show because, Doug Walker didn't know, what the Nostalgia Critic was going to be yet. He didn't know that, himself being a character in the videos would be as much as, his literary analysis of, of the movies. And that was something he had to learn through the process, which, I will give J.K. Rowling this. It's insanely difficult to start, a book franchise. And she managed to do that. Granted, she apparently has gotten a completely free pass for a very critically deadly sin, writing wise, which I may honestly do it in a web series based just on looking through the classics and finding where classic authors manage to get away with cheats that I wouldn't be allowed to. A great example is Virgil with the Aeneid. He gets to do something that I wouldn't be able to do in a modern story, which is he can just railroad his character to do exactly what he wants and just, force him to do it, even though it's out of Aeneid's character. It's not inherent to any of the problems that he's facing at the time, but yet, because Virgil says so, he has to do these things. And, in a modern play, you couldn't get away. I mean, in a modern, whatever genre you would like to use, or medium you'd like to use, you couldn't get away with that. I mean, that's the main problem people have with Final Fantasy 13, is that it's too railroady, yet Virgil seems to get a pass on that. Or, another great example is Sophocles, with the original Oedipus Rex. He gets away with a just blatant info dump of all the things that are happening there, and at the end of the speech, it's revealed that it's completely exposition. Sophocles already, no, not Sophocles, Oedipus already knew all the things that they just spent, a large, the entire beginning of the play, telling him. And in modern storytelling, you can't do that. So, this may be its own web series as I look back through classic literature and find where ancient people, got to break rules and got away with it. So in that regard, I'm more jealous of J.K. Rowling being able to, do this and get away with it, because she does have pretty flat characters in book 1, and Harry Potter is pretty much just a Mary Sue, which I'm going to talk more about in part 2. But if you want someone just praising Harry Potter's goodness, come back, for Sorcerer, Chamber of Secrets, and on, because my personal favorites are Chamber of Secrets, basically book 2, 4, 5, and 7. Those are the ones that make me think of Harry Potter. Those are the ones that, bring me, into the series. This one, book 1 is just terrible, and I just can barely even, sit through it. So